Why rich people keep getting richer, while poor people keep getting poorer. Imagine two people living in the same city. They shop at the same stores. They drive on the same roads. They watch the same news. And they both decide to invest their money. The first person has $1,000. The second person has $100,000. They choose the exact same investment, the same stock, the same day, the same percentage return. 10 years later, something surprising happens. The first person's investment grew, but the second person's investment exploded. The gap between them didn't shrink. It widened. And that's one of the most misunderstood truths about money. Most people believe wealth is created primarily through hard work. And hard work absolutely matters. But if hard work alone created wealth, millions of people working 2 jobs would already be rich. Instead, wealth follows a different set of rules. Rules that most people were never taught in school. Rules that quietly shape who gets ahead and who falls behind. Today we're going to uncover those rules. We're going to explore why rich people often become richer without working more hours. Why inflation hurts some people while helping others. Why debt can either destroy your finances or accelerate your wealth. And why understanding these principles could completely change the way you think about money. By the end of this video, you'll understand that wealth isn't just about how much money you make. It's about how money behaves. And once you understand that, you'll start seeing opportunities that most people miss. Let's begin. Part 1, the compounding advantage. Most people think wealthy people become rich because they earn huge salaries. That's certainly true for some people, but it's not the whole story. The biggest wealth-building machine in history isn't a high salary. It's ownership. The wealthy own things, and those things produce more money. Think about it this way. Imagine you plant a single apple tree. At first, you only have one tree, but after a few years, that tree produces apples. Some of those apples contain seeds. Those seeds can grow into more trees, and eventually one tree becomes a small orchard, then a large orchard, then hundreds of trees. Money works in a very similar way. This process is called compounding. Compounding happens when your money earns money. Then the money it earns also earns money, and over time, growth begins to accelerate. At first, the progress feels slow, almost invisible, but eventually the results become dramatic. Let's look at a simple example. Person A invests $1,000. Person B invests $100,000. Both earn an average return of 10% per year. After 1 year, person A earns $100. Person B earns $10,000. Same effort, same investment, same percentage return, but completely different outcomes. Now let's fast forward. After 10 years, person A has around $2,594. Person B has around $259,400. The difference isn't just the original amount. It's the power of compounding acting on a larger base. This is one reason wealth tends to concentrate. The more assets you own, the more opportunities you have for compounding to work in your favor. And here's something even more important. Many wealthy people don't spend all of the money their assets generate. They reinvest it. Dividends buy more shares. Rental income buys another property. Business profits fund another business. Each asset becomes a machine that creates additional assets. Eventually, the process becomes self-reinforcing. At that point, wealth starts growing faster than earned income. This is where many people become frustrated. They work harder, take overtime shifts, accept extra projects, yet they still struggle to get ahead. Meanwhile, someone who owns a portfolio of stocks may earn more from market growth than from working. This isn't because the system is magically favoring them. It's because assets have leverage. 1 hour of work produces income once. One asset can produce income repeatedly. Imagine owning a rental property. You might spend a few hours each month managing it, but the property can generate rent every single month. Imagine owning shares in a profitable company. You don't need to show up at the office every day. Yet if the company grows, your investment grows too. This is why wealthy people focus heavily on acquiring assets, because assets separate income from time. And once income is no longer tied directly to hours worked, wealth can grow much faster. This doesn't mean hard work is useless. In fact, hard work is often the first step. The difference is what happens to the money after it's earned. Many people earn money and immediately spend it. Wealthy people often earn money and convert it into assets. Over decades, that small difference becomes enormous. And that's the first hidden reason rich people keep getting richer. Not because they necessarily work harder, but because they own things that continue working for them. Part 2, the Paycheck Trap, how debt creates winners and losers. Now that we understand why assets compound wealth, let's talk about the trap that keeps millions of people from ever building those assets. It's called the Paycheck Trap, and most people don't even realize they're inside it. Think about the average person's life. You wake up, go to work, spend 8 or 10 hours earning money. You get paid. Then that money immediately starts leaving your account. Rent, mortgage, food, insurance, gas, phone bill, internet, subscriptions, taxes, unexpected expenses. And before you know it, most of the paycheck is gone. Then the cycle starts again. Work, get paid, spend, repeat. For many people, this cycle continues for decades. The problem isn't that earning a paycheck is bad. The problem is depending entirely on a paycheck, because a paycheck has a built-in limitation. It stops when you stop working. If you're sick, income may stop. If you're fired, income may stop. If the economy slows down, income may stop. If you retire, income may stop. Your paycheck depends on your time, and time is limited. You only have 24 hours in a day. You can only work so many hours. You can only earn so much through labor alone. This is where wealthy people begin playing a completely different game. Instead of focusing only on earned income, they focus on acquiring income-producing assets. Assets don't care if you're sleeping. Assets don't care if you're on vacation. Assets don't care if you're watching television. They continue working. That's a massive advantage. Imagine two neighbors. One neighbor earns $80,000 a year from a job. The other earns $80,000 a year from a job too. At first they look identical, but one neighbor invests part of every paycheck into assets. The other spends everything. 10 years later, the difference becomes obvious. One still depends entirely on work. The other has investments generating additional income. The gap keeps growing, not because one worked harder, but because one converted income into ownership. Ownership changes everything. And once you understand ownership, you start seeing why many wealthy people seem to get richer automatically. They're not necessarily working more. Their assets are working. Now let's talk about another factor that accelerates this process. Debt. Most people think debt is always bad, but debt is actually a tool, and tools can either build or destroy. A hammer can build a house or break a window. Debt works the same way. Poor debt takes money out of your pocket. Good debt helps put money into your pocket. Let's start with poor debt. Imagine buying a luxury car you can't really afford. The moment you drive it off the lot, it loses value. Now you have a monthly payment, interest, insurance, maintenance, fuel costs. The asset is shrinking, but the debt remains. The same thing happens with many consumer purchases. People borrow money to buy things that don't generate income, and those purchases create future financial pressure. Now compare that to an investor buying a rental property. They use debt too, but the property generates rent. The rent helps pay the loan. Over time, the loan shrinks. The property's value may rise, and eventually the investor owns an income-producing asset. Same debt, completely different outcome. One creates expenses, the other creates cash flow. This is one reason the wealthy often become wealthier. They understand how to use leverage strategically. Leverage simply means using resources to amplify results. Used carelessly, leverage destroys wealth. Used wisely, leverage can accelerate wealth creation. Of course, this doesn't mean every loan is good. Many investors lose money by taking on too much risk, but the principle remains the same. The purpose of debt matters more than the debt itself. The average person often borrows to consume. The wealthy often borrow to acquire. Consumption usually decreases wealth. Acquisition can increase wealth. That's a powerful difference. And it's one of the hidden financial rules most people never learn. The paycheck trap keeps people running. Bad debt keeps them running even faster. Meanwhile, assets and productive debt help other people move ahead. And the longer these patterns continue, the wider the financial gap becomes. Part 3. Inflation, asset ownership, the wealth mindset, and the action plan. So far, we've uncovered two major reasons why wealth gaps grow over time. The first is compounding. The second is the paycheck trap and the different ways people use debt. But there is another powerful force working quietly in the background every single day. A force that affects everyone. Rich, poor, young, old, employees, business owners, investors, everyone. That force is inflation. Most people think inflation simply means prices going up. And while that's true, inflation is much more important than that. Inflation changes the value of money itself. Imagine you had $100 20 years ago. That $100 could buy a lot more than it can today. The money didn't change, but its purchasing power did. Inflation slowly reduces what your cash can buy, and that's where the problem begins. Because many people spend their entire lives saving money in forms that barely grow. A checking account, a savings account, cash sitting at home. While they feel financially safe, inflation is quietly reducing the value of those savings every year. It's like trying to fill a bucket with water while there's a small hole at the bottom. At first you don't notice, but over time the loss becomes significant. Now here's where things get interesting. The wealthy often experience inflation differently because they don't primarily own cash. They own assets, real estate, businesses, stocks, land, investments, and many of these assets tend to rise in value over long periods of time. Think about a house purchased decades ago. The owner may have paid a fraction of what the property is worth today, or consider a successful company. As prices increase, businesses often increase their prices too. Revenue grows, profits grow, and investors benefit. This doesn't mean inflation is always good, but it does mean that asset owners often have protection that non-asset owners don't. Let's imagine two people. Person A saves $10,000 in cash. Person B invests $10,000 into productive assets. Years pass. Inflation rises. Prices increase. The cash buys less. The assets may grow. One person's money is standing still. The other's money is moving. That's one reason wealth gaps frequently expand. Assets often move with inflation. Cash usually doesn't. This is why financial education is so important, because many people believe saving money is enough. Saving is important, but saving alone rarely creates wealth. Wealth is usually created when money becomes productive, when it begins generating additional value, when it works. That's the key difference. Now let's talk about something even more important than money: mindset. Because money doesn't just follow mathematics, it often follows behavior. And behavior follows beliefs. Many people assume wealthy individuals know some secret formula, but often the biggest difference isn't a secret investment, it's a different way of thinking. For example, when most people receive extra money, they ask, "What can I buy?" Many wealthy people ask, "How can I grow this?" That single question can change an entire financial future. Imagine receiving a $1,000 bonus. One person buys a new phone, another buys assets. The phone loses value. The asset may gain value. One decision creates consumption, the other creates future opportunities. And repeated over years, those choices compound. The wealthy often think long-term. Most people focus on immediate comfort. Wealth builders focus on future freedom. This doesn't mean they never enjoy life. It means they understand delayed gratification. They understand that sacrificing a little today can create a lot tomorrow. Think about planting a tree. You don't plant a seed today and expect shade tomorrow. You wait. You water it. You care for it. Eventually it grows. Money works the same way. Many people quit because results aren't immediate. Investors understand that time is part of the process. This patience gives them an enormous advantage. Another important mindset difference involves learning. Many successful people invest heavily in education, not necessarily college degrees, but skills, knowledge, books, courses, business experience, financial understanding. Why? Because skills create opportunities, and opportunities often create income. Income can purchase assets. Assets can create wealth. Everything starts with learning. That's why financial literacy matters so much. Schools teach math, science, history, language, but many people never learn how money works. They never learn about investing, compounding, risk management, asset allocation, cash flow, leverage, taxes, business ownership. As a result, they spend decades making avoidable mistakes. The good news is that information is more accessible today than ever before. Books, podcasts, YouTube, courses, mentors. The knowledge exists. The challenge is applying it consistently, because knowledge alone changes nothing. Action changes everything. Now let's bring all of this together. Why do rich people often become richer? It's not because they're magically different. It's because they frequently operate under a different financial system. They own assets. Assets compound. Assets can benefit from inflation. Assets generate income. Assets create opportunities. Meanwhile, many people rely entirely on labor. They exchange time for money. They spend most of what they earn. They accumulate liabilities instead of assets. And they never escape the cycle. But here's the most important thing to understand. None of this means your future is predetermined. Financial success isn't reserved for people born wealthy. Many millionaires started with ordinary jobs. Many investors began with small amounts of money. Many business owners started with almost nothing. What separated them wasn't luck alone. It was behavior repeated over long periods of time. Small actions, repeated consistently. That's how wealth is built. So what should someone actually do? Let's create a simple action plan. Step 1. Track where your money goes. Most people don't have a spending problem. They have an awareness problem. You can't improve what you don't measure. Know where every dollar goes. Step 2. Spend less than you earn. Simple, but powerful. The gap between income and spending is where wealth begins. Step 3. Build an emergency fund. Unexpected expenses happen. Preparation creates stability. Step 4. Start investing. Even if the amount is small. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is participation. Step 5. Focus on acquiring assets. Assets are the engine of long-term wealth. Step 6. Invest in yourself. Skills often provide the highest return on investment. Step 7. Think long-term. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year and underestimate what they can achieve in 10. Remember the two investors from the beginning. The difference wasn't just money. It was understanding. Understanding how wealth works. Understanding how assets work. Understanding how time works. And understanding how behavior compounds. That's the real secret. Money money follows rules, and once you learn those rules, you can start making them work for you instead of against you. The journey won't happen overnight. There will be setbacks, mistakes, unexpected challenges, but every wealthy person started somewhere. Every investor bought a first asset. Every entrepreneur made a first sale. Every millionaire earned a first dollar. The important thing isn't where you start. The important thing is the direction you're moving, because every financial decision is a vote for your future, and the sooner you begin making decisions that build assets, create opportunities, and generate growth, the sooner money can start working for you instead of requiring you to work for it forever. Thank you for watching. And remember, the goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to become financially free.